you ever heard the phrases, no pain, no gain, feel the burn, or nothing tastes as good as skinny feels? Do you remember seeing commercials for Snackwell's cookies, Slim Fast shakes, and Weight Watchers meetings? If so, you might be a Xennial, and we are too. Hi there, I am Dani.
And I'm Katie.
And today we are taking a nostalgia walk that might get a little treacherous and could possibly be a little or a lot triggering. So this is the first in a 2-episode series we're going to do on body image. And today we're talking about the toxic fitness culture / diet culture of the 1990s. Katie and I, as y'all know, were both born in the 80s, me 1980, Katie 1982. So we talk on this podcast about the 80s and 90s, but for this episode particularly, I wanted to focus on the 90s since that's when both of us came of age. We entered puberty, we entered teenage life, young adulthood. And I think that decade is probably what influenced us the most when it comes to our own self-body image and all the issues that come with it. But before we even start digging in and talking today, I do want to give a trigger warning to all of you wonderful listeners out there. There will be talk of disordered eating, of compulsive exercise, and just some other difficult topics related to bodies and to fitness. So if any of this will put you in a difficult emotional place, you may just want to skip this one or just proceed with caution. So most importantly, just take care of yourselves, dear listeners. Yeah. And let me just be honest on that note. Katie knows over there, this was a really, really hard episode for me to gather myself on. And Katie and I take turns researching topics. Sometimes it's silly, sometimes it's serious. This one was so hard. In fact, I had to start and stop multiple times. I can't even tell you how many times I texted Katie and was like, I don't know, maybe we should just push this off. Maybe we should just not do this. I don't know. And I didn't even finish my stuff until just a few hours before we recorded this. So it was triggering for me for a lot of reasons, which we'll talk just a little about later. But I kept going because I know that it's very important for us to talk about these things, not just for our own healing, but maybe for yours as well. Plus, we need to identify problematic things in our society that have harmed humans in the past and present, so we can learn from them and fix them and do better. Mm-hmm. So I pushed through and here we are. So we're going to see how this goes. I have so many notes in mine and Katie's hands. I don't know what's going to happen. We may go off the rails. We'll see. So let's just do this, Katie. So Tell me, without looking ahead at the notes, what do you know about the term toxic fitness culture?
Yes. So I have not read ahead. I'm just following as we go. So I am experiencing this for the first time with you listeners, although I do have a little background on what Dani was researching. And Dani, I wanted to also just add to what you had at the beginning there, that maybe you can let our listeners who don't know your credentials now and the approach you took to this research as far as that goes.
Yeah, I actually had that later in the episode, but you're right. I probably should say that now. Just so you know, listeners, professionally, my professional background, I am a fitness professional. I am an ACE, nationally certified group fitness instructor and a personal trainer. I've been in the fitness world off and on since the early 2000s. So it's weird to say that because that's, a long time. Mm-hmm. I've taught one-on-one sessions. I've taught small and large group exercise classes. I've facilitated online fitness groups, and I've done that off and on. I haven't done that continuously for the past 24 years or whatever. God, that makes me feel old. But that is my credentials into how I'm going to talk about this. And the references I cite, I will give you background on those people as well, so you know their credentials, because there are a lot of people out there who speak into fitness and health and nutrition and all that. I'm not going to talk on nutrition, but that really shouldn't be speaking about it. Like some random person that works out in their house on TikTok is really not your best influence for knowledge related to the fitness world. But I am an anti-diet and body image positive personal trainer and fitness instructor, and I'll talk more about that as we go along about what that means. But yes, that's probably a good idea to go ahead and give y'all those credentials now, so you know it's not just me word vomiting
right.
all over this podcast.
Yes, got it. Okay, perfect. And so you had asked me what I know about toxic fitness culture. And that's like really loaded, I guess. I guess I'll just tell you what I think of when I hear that, because I don't know if I actually have ever been told really like the definition of that. But for me, it's a one size fits all. Everyone needs to look a certain way. You should feel bad if you're not working hard enough to look whatever way it is. And there may be more than one way, but it's a pretty narrow group. So for example, one way might be women who lift a bunch, and then women who are really, really thin, and then, even like curvy women, but like you're muscular. So that is just sort of how much are you willing to give up to fit one of these molds? And there's not very many of them. That's what I think of. And toxic to me means it's eating away at other things in your life that, or your own mental health to achieve that state. That's what I think of.
You kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, I like to look at this as kind of a spectrum, and most of what I'm going to tell y'all today, I've learned from other people. So I'm going to make sure I share that with you. This phrase came into my world only a few years ago. I've been like relearning things. So I'm going to read you a definition that I think encompasses, there's lots of definitions out there because it's kind of a spectrum, right? All the things you just talked about definitely fit into this definition. So I follow someone by the name of Isla Parker. Isla Parker is a person who I've been learning from for a few years now. They are a qualified medical exercise specialist, and they're also part of several intersecting people groups that are oftentimes overlooked or damaged by the traditional fitness industry. So because of their racial and gender identity, as well as some chronic medical issues, Isla has a unique insight into unmet accommodations and non-supportive environments. So Isla founded Decolonizing Fitness, which began as a mobile training service to serve gender expansive people, but has now expanded into an online resource for fitness professionals, as well as anybody else just wanting to learn more in creating supportive spaces for diverse bodies. You can find Isla's website link and link to their full bio info in our show notes. So I feel like that is all important that you know this, because to me, I feel it's very important to learn about fitness or anything from the groups who have been affected the most by being marginalized. So I try really hard to listen now when I didn't before. But so here's the definition that Isla came up with as toxic fitness culture, and it's quoted a lot of places and a lot of spheres that I'm in. Here it is. Toxic fitness culture consists of two binary groups situated on opposite ends of the fitness spectrum. One group consists of folks who carry intersectional and intentionally exploited identities that mainstream fitness culture negatively impacts. This includes bodily agency, which perpetuates harm, thus limiting access to resources and representation in ways that feel inclusive and supportive. The mainstream group consists of the traditionally accepted, racialized, non-disabled, thin, toned, attractive, young, cisgender, heterosexual people who are often represented as the gatekeepers of theoretical knowledge and inclusion within defining an embodied fitness culture. Boom.
Wow.
So exactly what you were saying, just in very professional terms there.
Right. Yeah. This writing is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I love the way they worded this as a spectrum with one group of people here and one group of people here. And like you said, there's only one way. So Isla had some examples on their website of examples of toxic fitness culture. And I do this big sigh because Katie, as I read these, after each one, let me know if you recognize this. If you've ever seen this or experienced this in your life, maybe not for yourself, but you've witnessed it. Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Here we go. Here's some examples. So toxic fitness culture examples: the promotion of fitness for the sole purpose of weight loss.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Everywhere.
The belief that fit has a look.
Yes.
Personal trainers unwilling or unable to modify exercises that support your unique body.
Yes.
The belief that you're not working hard enough if you haven't achieved thinness.
Yep.
Personal trainers who aren't registered dietitians giving diet advice.
Oh boy. And sometimes not even personal trainers.
Right.
But yes.
This one rubs me super bad.
Me too.
Personal trainers who don't believe you when you need to stop and encourage you to push through pain.
Never personally encountered that, but I've, seen people addressing that.
And I
online.
think you could even say coaches.
Yeah. Okay. If you put it in that term, then definitely.
Yes. The belief that beating your body up makes for a good workout. Ugh.
Yeah.
Only being seen as an expert because you're in a smaller body.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of loops back, right, to the belief that fit has a look.
Yeah. Having a limited view of what fitness is.
Yes. We talked about this for the Miss America.
Yeah, we did, right?
Yep.
Believing working out is more important than listening to what your body needs.
Do that all the time, actually.
The belief that your body has to get smaller/toned when you engage in fitness, and if it doesn't, you're doing something wrong. Yeah. Being coerced or shamed into working out. And that could even be by yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Thinking diet and exercise is the only way to take care of ourselves.
Right. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cultivating fitness spaces that aren't accessible or affirming to a diverse group of bodies.
Yep.
Every big box gym that exists. Sorry.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. There's two more. Making fitness overly complicated to show authority or expertise. Yeah. I can't tell you how much I see that in the fitness professional world. Personal training certifications that don't offer education on working with body diverse populations. You might not be able to speak into that.
I was going to say, you probably know more about that.
Yeah. But I definitely, just from the time I originally got certified in early 2000s to now, it's by the same organization to see it change from what they used to teach to now. I feel like they're doing better. Could it be much better? Yes, they're getting there. So let's talk about, so now that you've heard all those examples, let's chew on this some more. And let's talk about how we saw some of those exact things in the 90s with fitness culture.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's sort of the outward view of that and then sort of the inward view. I remember, you might laugh, it was actually pretty fun and somewhat, now that I think about it, maybe did include more people in it, but my mom used to have those VHS Sweat into the Oldies.
Yes.
And we would do those. And those were actually really fun.
I actually love Richard Simmons.
Yeah.
Too.
Seriously. Yeah. And so those weren't bad necessarily, but I just remember that and how people looked on that. And just in general, the whole, that industry and the 8-minute abs and the Thigh Master that Suzanne Summers was,
oh my gosh,
pushing. And again, not that there's anything wrong with doing any of these things. It's just, it was such a it was honestly like the capitalist approach. You need these videos. You need this thing, kind of to what you said, to be fit, which looks like this.
Which looks like this. Now, I will say, I hadn't thought about this while I was doing my research, because I'll talk about more why this gets me in such a hard place. Because it's very multi-layered, isn't everything?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Actually, you said like the home workout videos got really popular in the 80s and 90s. Jane Fonda, you know, that was huge. Jazzercise. And then you had Tybo, and you had the infomercial days, you had Buns of Steel.
Oh, God, I forgot about that. Yes.
And then they had Abs of Steel.
Yeah.
And it's basically exactly what they, in Isla's definition of you're working out for aesthetic purposes only, right?
Yeah.
Your fitness should look like this. It's the whole before and after pictures.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, if you're fit, that you'll look like these people. Now, I will say, this is what I hadn't thought about. Richard Simmons is the only person back then who had diverse bodies in his workout videos.
That's what I was just going to say. I would need to watch one again, but I remember seeing people of different ages, sizes, men, women, color, everything.
He did. And he didn't have overly complicated, overly difficult moves.
Correct.
Because all the bodies there were able to do them. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I have issues with is when you watch a workout video or something and everybody's doing the exact same thing and everybody looks the exact same.
Right.
Well, what if you can't do that? Mm-hmm. Or they have like one person who's quote unquote modifying, but they still look like everybody else there.
Right.
And it's like, what is that? That's not helping me.
Correct. And so really quick aside, since this is heavy stuff. I was laughing the other day because I hate before and after pictures of weight loss so much. Look, if that motivates you and really makes you feel good, you should do it. But it's very triggering to me. And I also get sad when I see my friends post things like that they're like, I looked bad, or I was so sad, or I was so whatever. And I'm like, I knew you 6 months ago and loved you and you were great. And this is awesome if this is a change you wanted to make. But like, just in general, they really bum me out.
Yeah.
And they make me feel self-conscious. And then I'm like, oh, but you're wonderful anyway. Why do you feel like you're better now? Blah, blah, blah. Well, so I will hide, not full people, but I'll tell the socials, I don't like posts like this. Mm-hmm. It's not spam or anything, but don't show me these. Girl, I have started getting before and after pictures for dogs.
Shush.
Who eat weight loss dog food. Swear to God, my feed is like dogs and cats. And I'm like,
I didn't know those even existed in the world.
I guess because they can't show me people anymore. They're like, well, we're still going to get you the message somehow. And I'm
so now we're doing it to poor animals.
I know. And I get it. Dogs, they do live healthy. There's some merit to making sure that they are active and not eating crap all the time. But still, I'm like, really? We're body shaming dogs now? And owners of dogs who look like dogs? I don't understand.
That is crazy.
It's so bizarre.
Oh, that's bizarre. Oh,
but
my
anyway,
gosh.
Sorry.
I'm
Back
glad
on
you
track.
told that story.
Yes.
I also hate before and afters because it's after what? Now what?
Yep.
Because fitness really, Katie knows me personally, but she also knows me professionally because I am her trainer.
She is.
And I don't do before and after pictures because I don't believe in that. I believe in fit now. Let me clarify. I don't believe in that now.
Right.
Because fitness should be, I work out with people for longevity and functionality. You want a body to give you autonomy as long as you possibly can, depend whatever circumstances come your way. Some you can't control, right? But whatever you can control, our goal is longevity, enjoyment, and functionality, not before and after what. I'm hoping you don't have an after. You just keep, feeling good and moving.
Exactly.
But here, I'm going to touch on this. This is why this is kind of, usually it's Katie who cries on these episodes, which is weird because in real life, I cry way more than Katie, I think.
That's true.
But you cry on here more. Isn't that weird?
That is kind of weird.
I know. I was thinking about that today. I was like, I might cry on this one. And I'm like, wait, I was just crying at rehearsal the other night.
I will say I'm a writer.
Yes.
And when I'm writing, I cry my eyes
I can see that.
out. Like, it doesn't matter because I write about real life. I write about my children. I write about relationships. I write about my mom who has Alzheimer's disease. So sometimes I'll cry for 4 or 5 hours straight on a long work day. Like, I have to like back away. Yeah. And then I post the thing and I'm like proofreading it online and I'm crying again. You know, it's rough. I post for my kids' birthdays. So I will say I do. I just sometimes maybe not so much in person. I don't know. It's weird. It's situational.
Yeah. But that makes sense because that's kind of your like processing and like you're and me on the other hand, I cry all the time. Like, it's actually embarrassing sometimes that I cry so much. Like I was saying, I was crying at rehearsal the other night. Katie's done 2 shows with me and knows like I cannot keep it together.
No,
I am one of those people who cries at Hallmark commercials. I mean, Katie does too, but like I just am a crier. So I'm surprised I haven't cried. Today might be the day.
Today might be it.
So anyways, back to what I was saying. This is one of the reasons, one of the many, many reasons this has been hard for me to go through this is because in my professional world and personal world, I was not only a victim of toxic fitness culture, I was a participant and I was a perpetuator.
Wow.
For years. Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I posted before and after pictures of me or students or whatever. I can't tell you how many times I was teaching a group fitness class and said things like, let's get those tank top arms. Let's get ready for summer. Burn off that cookie. I know I want to throw up just thinking about it because it makes my stomach turn that I was part of the problem. But I admit it. I take full responsibility and I am sorry to any of you out there who were part of my classes or in my learning spheres at that time that you had to be a victim in my care, right?
Yeah. I will say, like, when you know better, you do better. And I am guessing nobody who was in any of those things felt victimized by that or does today because that's so common. It doesn't make it right.
That's so yucky, right? That's like,
but it's not like, oh, Dani's just like worried about all this stuff. It's so out there.
Yeah.
Already.
It's been hard because I have a lot of guilt. You know, I have a lot of shame. I have a lot of anger that this even exists, that I even was taught that and like absorbed it. You know, it's a lot of feelings, but, you know, once, like Katie said, once we know better, we do better. And that's why it's so important to me as a fitness professional to keep educating myself so I can not continue those problematic thought processes.
And I think it's great that you're healing, like out loud. And you don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, you could be healing on your own and be ashamed by it and want to do better and just, you know, moving forward, do it differently. Which is great, but, you know, you're talking about it today. I know we've talked about it in our sessions before, and that you are healing out loud, because then I think even people who aren't fitness trainers, but I think everyone can relate to that sort of mentality, whether they've done it to themselves or had a trainer do it to them, or they just see it in culture. And so I think it's really important, and it might be hard for you to do that, but it's helpful to other people, I think.
I hope so. But thank you. I appreciate you recognizing that. You know, I have learned that from other friends of mine as well. Like, you know, let people see that life is messy and like own up to your BS. You know?
Yeah, it's so hard.
It is. It's really hard.
So hard.
And it's not that you don't want to be vulnerable, but it is, you know, I don't know. It's complicated.
I feel like the universe is coming through, and I'm not going to share what this exact thing is right now because I'm not ready maybe to heal out loud about it. It has nothing to do with fitness, but just this morning I was thinking about something and I was like, man, I used to do this thing or treat this person this way. And that was wrong. And I actually had a moment where I was like, I should talk to that person and say that. And now hearing you, I'm like, yeah, you know, it's okay to be vulnerable and to be like, hey, I didn't like the way that I did this or whatever, or even like at the time I didn't know better, but now that I look back, I do. And so I feel like the universe is saying, yes, listen, like you should do that because it helps everyone when we're able to find those moments, right?
Yeah, I
For
agree.
sure.
I agree. Look at us. Growth.
Look at us, and I'll let you know, listeners, if I'm able to actually do it.
Growth.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So I had written down in my notes, like I written down my professional, credentials, background a little bit. We talked about it just now a little bit. I had some personal stuff too. And now I'm sitting here looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to, because it's a lot. Like, I'm also very wordy. Obviously, Katie and I are both wordy.
Yeah, we are.
So because what I didn't want to do on this episode was dwell on the past much. I wanted to call attention to the problems and then talk about it like as we do. But I didn't want to kind of like we did on the Brittany. Like, we wanted to talk about it, but we didn't want to dig up.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right word is.
I mean, it's up to you.
I'm gonna share it.
I say we have editing tools. So the worst case, we talk about it and we take it out later. But listeners, if you're hearing the story, it means we did not edit it out.
Yeah. I guess because if you've seen pictures of me and Katie, I am in a smaller body. I am a smaller person. I am 5'2".
Yep.
When I wear good shoes.
Right.
And I am just a petite person. So a lot of times, I have I have the privilege, I guess, of looking like what most people consider as fit. Okay?
Right.
Even if you don't know anything about me and you believe these toxic fitness beliefs, that's what you would think. But I'll tell you, I have looked like at my thinnest, which is not today. What people thought was my healthiest was actually my most unhealthy time of my life.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
So I'm going to kind of work backwards here.
Okay.
Because I wrote down on here about when I was like a little kid and then I went into like high school and college, but I'm going to start at the college.
Okay.
So when I went to college, I was around this size that I am now and I gained 50 pounds. Okay. In my first year. And this is where it starts to get wonky, everybody. I gained 50 pounds. And it's a long story, but there was, lots of fast food eating, lots of not taking care of myself with sleep, not a lot of moving. I was binge drinking. I was chain smoking. I was a big smoker, which shocks people when I tell them that. Not if you knew me back then, but if you know me now. But also I had a slight thyroid imbalance at the time that was undiagnosed. Okay. So I've battled with my thyroid since that point, off and on over the years. I just have to keep an eye on it. Sometimes I have to get on medication. Sometimes I don't. But anyway, when I went to the doctor, I actually had the doctor look at me in the face and tell me straight up, like, most of this weight gain is from your own choices. Now, if y'all are familiar with thyroid problems, if you have a lazy thyroid like I do, it can make you gain weight. Depending on how bad it's functioning or how it's not functioning, you can gain a lot of weight. Mine was just a slight imbalance. So she wasn't wrong. Okay.
Right.
She wasn't wrong, but basically she told me, you need to start counting your calories, everything that goes in your mouth, write it down, and you need to start exercising. Okay. Again, besides the calorie counting mess, she wasn't wrong. I did need to make some lifestyle changes, but I used to be so thankful for her because I did it. I did everything she said. I lost weight. I didn't quit smoking, which is so dumb. That's the first thing she should have told me to do.
Right. Did she know you were smoking?
I'm sure. Well, maybe not because I was in college. So
you
maybe
probably
I
lied. You probably lied.
Anyway, the thing that I think about now, though, I mean, like I said, she wasn't wrong. I was not treating my body well. But why, when she talked to me, did she not focus on maybe doing some more labs, trying to make sure there was nothing else going on, and like really investigate what else was going on in my body and my mental health?
That's what I was just about to say.
Because it wasn't good. It wasn't good. I don't even think I was aware it wasn't good. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But if she could have asked you the right questions, she may have seen it, or you may have been like, oh, I guess I have been feeling a lot of anxiety or depression, which therefore makes me not sleep, which therefore makes me eat, which makes me drink.
Yeah. I see. It's all
Exactly.
the, like, why did no, but I'm not blaming this doctor. Cause again, she's also a victim of toxic fitness, and diet culture as well.
Course.
So that's when that right there is when I lost all that weight. I started with some really bad, toxic, disordered eating. I was an obsessive exerciser, like, for years. This is going to be hard to talk about. Here it comes.
Uh-oh. It's okay.
Here it comes. We're not going to edit this out. It's going to be okay. I don't want to go into depths about it all. I did not have, a quote unquote eating disorder. I make sure I say disordered eating because I did not have, I was not binging. I was not purging. But what I was doing was religiously counting calories. If you knew me at this time in my life, you remember this was before we had cell phones with all the things and the logs. I had this little notebook in a book I bought from Walmart.
Wow.
That had calories of everything, all the restaurants and everything that went in my mouth. If you were friends with me then, you remember this notebook. And I kept track of all of it. I would not eat intentionally if I knew I was going out to allot myself for however many beers I was going to have. There'd even be times we had like this old rinky dinky Stairmaster in our apartment. Because most of the time I went to my college gym to work out.
Yeah.
I would come home at like 2 a.m. drunk as crap and get on the Stairmaster.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel that. Yeah.
And in fact, and this went on past the 90s when I moved in with my husband before we were married. He was in military training, so we were away from family on Christmas. And we weren't married yet, but it was like our first Christmas together, and it was our first Christmas away from people that we love. I got up Christmas morning, we opened presents together, and I was like, I'm going to go work out now. Like, our apartment had a gym you could go to. And he was like, Dani, it is Christmas morning. I was like, I know, but we just ate a whole lot and I know we're going to eat a lot later. I went and worked out for 2 hours.
Wow.
On Christmas morning and left him alone. Yeah, I know. That I think was the beginning of when I realized like that's not good.
Too much. Yeah.
So those are just some examples. And then, I started teaching fitness. I already told y'all the things I would say in my classes. Like when I first started teaching fitness, I was teaching like step aerobics. So that's how old you know.
I love step aerobics.
Right?
So good.
And I was hella inexperienced. Like I had a great mentor when we lived in Texas. She owned a gym, gave me a job right when I got certified and not know what I was doing. But people thought I knew a lot because of how I looked. Right?
Yeah.
Which is gross. And so, and like I said, when I was at my thinnest, I was at my unhealthiest.
Yeah.
100%.
I think 100%. That's like worth repeating, right? Because
yeah, it is. I mean, it is.
Yeah. It's like you think of, and not to go too in depth on my end, but same, like I can see pictures of times that I was disordered eating, over exercise, compulsive exercise, calorie counting to excess, like those sorts of things that like I was my unhappiest. Yeah. I was tired. Yeah. I didn't have energy.
Right.
Even like injuries.
Oh yeah. Because I don't know if you did this. I'm sure you did. If I knew I was quote unquote, supposed to work out that day, even if I was sick or injured, I would do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
When your body is screaming at you to rest and you don't listen and you do it anyway.
Yeah.
Katie and I both used to be runners.
Mm-hmm.
Ask us why we're not.
Yes. So mine was a popped meniscus.
Right.
And it was after, years of overuse without the proper stretching and all of that. But also a couple weeks of tightness in my knee, and I kept running and I kept doing leg press more and dancing because I was going to be in a show. This was just a couple years ago. And my knee popped the week of my show. We didn't think I was going to be able to do it. Thankfully, I got like a shot and a steroid pack and a knee brace that I wore. And I really haven't run since. I've gone out a couple times and I have to do other things. I've had to modify because it was too much. There's nothing wrong with running. And some people love just the feel of running and the high of running. And that is all amazing. But I wasn't doing a good job listening to what my body was trying to tell me. And that's not a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a similar, I mean, I got a hip injury when I was training for a half marathon a few years back, like about halfway through my training, and I would not stop training. And I ran the whole race with a hip injury, which put me in PT off and on for years. And I hadn't run in years, and I tried recently to get back into it. And nope, my hip and now, not only now is it my hip, my knee has come into it because it's all connected.
It's all connected, right?
And I'm like, you know what? It's just time because I am one of those people who I enjoy I get the runner's high and I like it, and I enjoy to exercise outside, even though I enjoy to live my life indoors. I'm sitting here with a sweatshirt on that says indoorsy.
You are, yeah.
But I do like to do activities outside and then go back inside.
There you go. At your own choice. Yeah.
So
of your own control.
But now I'm listening to my body and I'm saying, no, we're done. So let's just be done with that chapter of your life. And there's so many other ways
and
to
it's
move.
Okay. Same with me. Like I've gone out a couple times. I remember one day I was feeling good and I ran like 4 miles and I hurt for a week.
Yeah.
A week. And I was like, this is not worth this. When I could bike, I could swim, I could just walk. Like,
yes,
I don't have to put my worth as like a strong person, a fit person, whatever, in this one activity.
When there's
all these other avenues for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, like we were saying, pushing through pain, working out through pain, that's all toxic fitness culture, right? Or like having to do certain types of exercise. So we kind of touched on this a little bit. What goes hand in hand with toxic fitness culture is diet culture, which we won't dive into too much because, like I said, I don't do nutrition. Like I am not a registered nutritionist or dietitian, so I can't professionally speak on that myself. But one of the first books I read that really started changing really started opening my eyes and teaching me a lot about listening to your body was this book called Anti-Diet. Actually, the full title, let me give you the full title. I brought this huge stack of books in here.
I want to see.
Is Anti-Diet, Reclaim Your Time, Money, Well-Being, and Happiness Through Intuitive Eating. Christy Harrison is also someone I learned a lot from in recent years. She is a registered dietitian and nutritionist, and her work focuses on undoing toxic fitness and diet culture beliefs and or practices, as well as just educating people on intuitive eating. So you can find her full bio and info link in our show notes too. Now, I will say, full disclaimer, you have to be careful with intuitive eating because that can also creep into the lines of being a diet. So, and she talks about that in the book. So I'm just putting that out there now. So Christy Harrison defines diet culture as kind of like a system of beliefs. Okay. So here's what she says. Diet culture is a system of beliefs that worships thinness and equates it to health and moral virtue, which means you can spend your whole life thinking you're irreparably broken just because you don't look like the impossibly thin ideal. Diet culture promotes weight loss as a means of attaining higher status, which means you feel compelled to spend a massive amount of time, energy, and money trying to shrink your body, even though the research is very clear that almost no one can sustain intentional weight loss for more than a few years. Yeah, I know.
Wow.
It's big research in there. Diet culture demonizes certain ways of eating while elevating others, which means you're forced to be hyper vigilant about your eating, ashamed of making certain food choices, and distracted from your pleasure, your purpose, and your power. That part. And diet culture oppresses people who don't match up with its supposed picture of quote unquote health, which disproportionately harms women, femmes, trans folks, people in larger bodies, people of color, and people with disabilities, damaging both their mental and physical health. Diet culture doesn't just mean being on a diet, because you don't have to follow any sort of official diet to be caught up in the culture of dieting. So this now can even include what some people call wellness instead of diet.
Right.
So now we have, instead of diets, it's wellness. So that's this whole mess.
Which wellness is a thing.
Correct.
But you have to be careful what you're putting in that bucket.
Right. Because one of the reasons I don't do nutrition and why I don't get certified in nutrition to do with people is because it is such a broad, like fitness itself is so individualized. What is healthy and accommodating for Katie's body is not the same as mine. You know, it's very broad, and nutrition is even more broad. And so depending on what your medical needs are, your age, your, you know, all these things goes in. So you can't just say, oh, well, this is for wellness, so everybody else takes this supplement, I'm going to take it. You know, green smoothies, they're good for everybody. Not necessarily. Right. So, all right. So like I said, we're not going to spend too much time on this because I want to move past it, but let's think, Katie, of some examples from the 90s of diet culture. You see mine right there. I said Slim Fast, healthy choice dinners. Remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Snack well. So we got into the low fat or no fat craze in the 90s.
Yes.
Which is all part of diet culture. P.S. You need fat, by the way.
Yes.
You also need carbs, unless you have a medical condition that prevents you from having amounts of those. And also Weight Watchers. Fun fact. I actually was a guest speaker at a Weight Watchers meeting.
Oh my gosh.
In the early 2000s. And I brought before and after pictures and passed them around.
Of yourself or
of
client? Oh.
I just thought of that. I didn't even think of it until I read
about it till right now.
Ooh. Ew. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much summed up probably the ones I would say. These were the like main ones. Yeah, just any of those where you like send away for food and they send it to you. I mean, a lot of these obviously are still in existence today. I know Weight Watchers has like an app. And again, you can use Weight Watchers, I would argue, in a healthy way. I know they've changed. I know they used to, I've heard, I haven't ever done Weight Watchers, but friends who have, you used to have to go for these like weigh-ins and things that you don't have to do that anymore. It seems like they're sort of catching on that like maybe for us to stay relevant, we need to not be so regimented in this. But it's literally called Weight Watchers.
But really, you are counting every morsel that goes in your mouth, which
and giving points or whatever.
It's not bad, but it can cross a line so quickly,
very quickly. Yeah.
I mean, I personally am someone who can vouch that it goes into obsession. I mean, it's just it is very, very tricky. And there's nothing wrong. Let me just clarify too. There's nothing wrong with losing weight. That's not what we're saying. I don't want you to think we're saying that's wrong.
Right.
What we're talking about is the toxic beliefs that surround it, saying you have to.
Right.
To be healthy.
Or it's an aesthetic.
Or it's for aesthetic reasons.
you can lose weight and look the same.
Oh, absolutely.
And wear the same clothes. So there's that.
You can become healthier and look the same as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Some of my favorite fitness influencers, personal trainers to follow on Instagram are trainers in larger bodies. They're amazing. And we'll have links to some stuff, so don't worry. Okay, so we're going to move on now. I just wanted to touch on that. I figured we would have, I can still remember the jingle for Slim Fast. You remember they're saying?
I don't.
It was, give us a week, we'll take off the weight.
Oh, God. And they had that little, it was like the canister with the measuring tape around it that would pull it in. I remember that.
Which also is bad because you should not try to lose massive amounts of weight in a short amount of time.
That and the crash diets and all that. And those definitely still are everywhere.
Still everywhere. But they're presented differently now. So moving on, let's move on from this. So thing is, if you're living today or you grew up in the 80s and 90s like we are, we're all still alive, obviously.
We're here.
You most definitely have been affected by toxic fitness culture and diet culture. And you may be listening now and thinking, OMG, I did not even know I was part of this. Right?
Yeah.
This may be the first time you've ever heard about it and you didn't realize. So what do we do? Right? What do we do about this? How do we... move forward? How do we move ourselves to a different place? So personally, like I already talked about this a little bit, but the past few years, really since 2020, when like everybody's world crashed, right? I've been trying really hard to take steps to kind of dismantle the toxic fitness and diet culture junk from my own brain, from my personal movement practice, as well as what I do with clients. So professionally as well. And I found out 3 things, y'all. So number 1 is it is not easy, right? Number 2, there is no quick fix for this. And number 3, it's an ongoing process. So it's like any kind of thing you try to dismantle that's kind of been embedded in you for years on end. It's hard work, but it's definitely worthwhile because anything worth having is worth working hard for, I think.
Yeah. And what you said about 2020, I would say that's about when for me too.
Yeah.
I was still running a lot then too. I started listening to this podcast. I think it launched in 2020 called Maintenance Phase. I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah.
And it's, I think her name's Aubrey, and she's like, I'm a fat lady. Mm-hmm. And then this guy, Michael, who's also a co-host with her. And anyway, you can look it up. But they have these really well-researched individual episodes, things like SnackWell's, the presidential fitness test, and like where that started from, and crash diets, and like, they break down different diets and stuff. And she wrote a book called What We Get Wrong When We Talk About Fat.
Oh, we'll have to add that to the notes.
We'll add it. I think I have it. I'll have to, I'll look before you go.
Yeah.
I let someone borrow it, so I'm not sure if I have it, but I'll look. And it was the same with me. I think even at first I was like, oh gosh, like, I feel very, like love everyone, embrace people for who they are. So I guess I thought maybe I didn't have a problem because like what's okay for me. And kind of to your point, I started thinking about all the times I post about my runs.
Right.
Wasn't doing before and afters, but all the times I would be like up before the dawn doing this, da 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 da. And I started to feel bad.
Right.
Because I was like, gosh, am I making people feel like this?
Right.
Who are like, oh, she's out there again, like blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, my house is trashed. Mm-hmm. I can't get my work done.
You're tired.
I'm dead by 6 p.m. when my kids are trying to interact with me meaningfully, and I have nothing left for them because I've been out since 4 a.m. And kind of to your point, these are all things that are part of our wellness. And it's not enough to be like, well, who cares? Like, no excuses. I got it. Like, my kid is trying to engage with me and I have nothing left for her.
Right.
Like, that's a problem when it's every day.
Yeah. Or leaving your partner alone on Christmas morning.
Or that.
So bad.
And again, fine if you want to partake in these, but like you said, it can go downhill so quickly. And that was about when I started to sort of dismantle for myself. And coincidentally, when my knee blew out and I was forced to not run, I had to, and I'm still on the journey, but I had to really learn to love the actual body I have.
Yes.
Still a process. I've gotten much better, but it was painful and it was hard. Yeah. And I needed like professional help and all the
100%,
things
yes.
because I was gaining weight because my body needed to,
right?
Because that's how it's made,
right?
But I was equating it with, well, it's because I'm not out there doing this, this, and this, instead of, hey, I'm at the time, late 30s. I've birthed 3 children. I'm perfectly healthy. Mm-hmm. Like, this is okay. And I think being forced to sit with those things.
Yeah.
And to feel uncomfortable and to look at myself and be like, I don't like how I look. And to really be able to process it and go, well, why don't I?
Right.
But like, what's good about this thing or that thing or whatever. So I'm still on the journey, over now going on 4 years, but it was really, it was painful. Mm-hmm. And so if you're at the beginning of that journey or something we're saying today, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
And it's going to take forever, but it's worth it.
It'll be ongoing for sure. Yeah. Because like we said, this is still prevalent. Like, it's not like, oh, toxic fitness culture used to happen. No, it's still there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally.
It's still there. I have not worked in a gym setting in years, and I don't think I can go back unless I find a gym that believes in health at every size, body acceptance, has affirming spaces for people of all identities, has all the accommodations.
Right.
You know, I just can't, and there aren't any like around here. There are some, don't get me wrong. There's a whole community of people out there that are doing this work. But you know, I train in community spaces, or
Right.
I go to people's houses for training sessions. And honestly, I enjoy that way more than having to navigate that mess. But anyway, so what can we do? Right. So first of all, just breathe. Like we said, it can be overwhelming. Healing and reframing your thoughts is totally possible. 100%. It's never too late.
Nope.
It does take work and effort and time, but you know what? Everything worthwhile does.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be an ongoing journey to kind of undo these thought processes that have been thrown at you and you've absorbed for a long time. So just remember, learning should never stop, and neither should healing, really.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah. And then second of all, like you said before, Katie, you can't know what you don't know.
Yep.
Right. So you can't fix something also if you don't know exactly what's broken and how it got to be that way. So learning and becoming aware is huge, right? A lot of times people are embarrassed to admit like they don't know something. It's okay. Like tell people, I don't know. I need to learn, right? Like I just said, there's a whole community of people out there that are doing good work in these spheres. I've mentioned 2 to you. I'm going to mention some more that can show you and educate you on how to begin the unraveling. Books, there's podcasts. Those have helped me a lot, books and podcasts. But there's also like workshops you can take and documentaries, websites, blogs. There's therapists.
Yeah.
That
specialize.
that specialize in these things. So there's lots of things out there. You just have to look, right? Another thing you can do is start trying hard to listen to your body. Katie and I both have said that. That is probably the hardest thing for me personally, because I have spent our society does everything we can to not listen to our bodies.
Yeah.
We shut our bodies up. You know, we give ourselves caffeine so we're not tired. We give ourselves medicine so we're not hurting. You know, like all these things we keep working out even though we really need to be sitting down.
Right.
Start really listening. And the way you can start doing that is asking yourself questions. Just like Katie said, it was the perfect like segue into this. So you can kind of ask, and I do this with clients too. We talk about these things. Ask yourself, am I moving in a way that brings me joy? And if not, what type of movement does bring me joy? And I'm not just talking about that like endorphin boost you get from some types of exercise. I mean, do you actually feel joyful? Like when I'm in dance class, even when I suck, it's joyful, right?
Right. Yeah.
It is a joyful movement. But you know, I'm always surprised because sometimes I'll ask adults that and they draw a blank. They cannot think of a kind of movement because they're just so used to, oh, I got to go work out. Oh, I got to go do that. You know, I got to get this done.
Right. Like, which thing are you excited about?
Right. And if you can't, if that draws a blank for you, I tell people to do this. Think about what types of bodily movement did you have fun doing as a kid? Okay, what did you have fun doing? As I liked to dance as a kid. I was never the best dancer, but it was fun. I loved roller skating. That's on my list this year, is to buy some roller skates.
Nice.
So hopefully I don't kill myself like on the ground out there, but like we'll try.
We'll get you some helmet.
I know. I need all the gear.
Yeah.
But start there. That's a great starting point on kind of rebuilding a relationship with movement instead of looking at it as punishment. Look at it as something to look forward to. That's fun.
Absolutely. And one thing both things, I love just like being outside.
Yeah.
So I look forward to going for a walk.
Right. Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point where I really like going first thing in the morning and this is going to sound horrible to some people because movement depends on the person.
Yeah.
Getting up early and going by myself to my gym and just walking on the treadmill, and I do my gratitude journaling, like just type in my phone as I'm doing it. I get my work organized for the day and I'm just like by myself. Sometimes I listen to a podcast I want to listen to. That's a big one for me. I save podcasts for when I want to go outside or go to the gym. Not like, oh, I have to earn it. Nothing like that.
Right.
But it's like, oh yeah, I get to go like listen to that now or whatever. And those things to me, I would say like walking on the treadmill maybe inherently isn't like super joyful, but like I know, okay, that's my space where I'm going to do these things and I get excited for it.
Yeah.
And then just being outside is like makes me so happy. So it's like, oh, now's the time I'm going to go do that.
Right.
And if I can't get excited about it, or dance class or whatever,
Right.
then like it's not for me. Like I'm an okay swimmer. We have a Peloton, but and I love the Peloton, but like lately I've been like, oh, I don't really want to.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to force myself to.
No, I mean, like, yeah, start with, what I like to do when I was a kid. And, if the body you have now is able and you have the environmental conditions to do those things, go give it a try, if you can. Because I know that not everybody can do the things they really liked doing when they were 8,
Of course. Climbing the trees and all
Right.
the things.
Another thing you can kind of ask yourself is the type of fitness I'm pursuing only to look a certain way? For years, aesthetics was the only reason I exercised, seriously.
Oh, me too.
And that makes me sad. Ask yourself, am I nourishing my body in the way that it needs? That one's going to be a little complicated because, like I said, it's different for everyone depending on your medical needs. And even your environmental needs, because if you're in a place where there's not a lot of sun, you need a lot more vitamin D.
Right.
Right. So that one might need some consulting with your doctor, obviously. So on the note of the aesthetics, think about what are some other benefits to moving that have nothing to do with appearance. Like, think about if I took the aesthetics out of it completely. Like if I knew I was doing this and I would have no aesthetic benefit at all, what else would be the benefit of doing this? So I used to hate stretching. Okay. Cause I thought it was just useless, right? Obviously the older you get,
As we're talking about our hips and our knees, I'm like, oh man.
but I love stretching now. I love it. I do it every day. I make sure, 10 minutes. I'm not like on the floor for an hour. Just to make sure that, because I want to be able to get up and down off the floor with my grandkids, and it starts now, just being stretching, and I would still do that. Stretching, whether it has an effect on my aesthetics or not, I would still like to do that,
Yeah.
and
great.
like Katie said, she enjoys that feeling. Also, think about, then maybe this will lower my cholesterol or whatever the things are going on. So think about those things. And then the last thing is, who am I listening to and following for health and fitness advice? Is it some 22-year-old rando on TikTok?
Right.
That looks like what we were talking about, like some skinny little blonde, whatever. You have to be real careful on social media, guys. With everything you do.
Everything.
There's a lot of nonsense out there, but there is a lot of great stuff too. I mean, ask yourself, do they have any toxic beliefs and practices that we talked about today? Pay attention, with my own personal training clients, and Katie's one, like we said, I don't do measurements or weighing or before or after pictures. And you see a lot of that on social media from like organizations and gyms and businesses. I stay away from that. And something I learned from another fitness professional is so a lot of times people are like, well, how do you measure progress then in your clients? Well, Katie, you want to tell them what we do before you start a training?
Yeah. So I filled out a kind of a self-assessment.
Yeah.
And it covers a lot of things. Doesn't ask like how many pounds are you trying to lose? Nothing like that. Just areas, that I really wanted to focus on. How do I feel on this scale about when I do this or that, or things along those lines. So for example, for mine, one big thing for me was mobility. And what Dani was saying about being able to keep up with the grandkids one day, right? And I have already been diagnosed with arthritis. Right. I was diagnosed in my mid-30s. And so, being aware, of the limitations that comes with, but also saying, what are the right exercises for that?
Right.
What are the things I can actually do to improve how that feels or to keep the flare-ups down or whatever? And shocker, it's not going out and running on the pavement 5 miles a day. That's not the one that's going to make me feel better. But and then we do check-ins on that and see how things have changed. And there are a lot of ways to really know how you're feeling mentally, physically, emotionally. And something that has helped me, and I think I saw it on social media, so this must be a good person that I follow, is this idea that when you're feeling bad about your body, your body image, or whatever, to realize that maybe the next day you're going to be like, wow, I look really great. To just go ahead and be like, I feel like that right now, but guess what? I don't need to throw all my carbs away and make a 90-day exercise plan. And I don't need to do anything at all.
Right.
Except I don't got to go out and walk 5 miles. I just need to acknowledge, all right, I feel kind of like bad about this today. Yeah. But like, I'm just going to stay on whatever path I'm on and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
You know, and just accepting. Sometimes we feel bad about ourselves.
I know.
And that's
society
okay.
does not help, which we know.
No.
Right? Yeah. I mean, so like I gauge progress with clients, like Katie was saying, I have an assessment scale that they fill out. It's a scale of, I don't even know how many things are on there, but it's a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
And I ask them things like, how are you feeling about, how is your sleep? How is your self-confidence? How do you feel your mobility and flexibility is? You know, on a 1 would be the worst, a 10 is the best. You know, how do you feel your cardiovascular endurance is? And I have them fill that out before we start. And then there's all this other stuff like Katie was talking about that we go through. And then like a month, 6 weeks later, it depends on the clients. Like I don't see Katie every week, so it would be different for her. But they will fill that form out again weeks later. And then we compare the answers and we see, hey, this went up. This didn't go up. What can we change? Or, oh, wait, this went down. So let's talk about that. And so I feel like that is such a better gauge of holistic fitness than measuring.
I actually just pulled this up that you sent me back when we started in September. So we're going on 4 or 5 months now-ish. So it's a scale of 1 to 10. And so some of the things you asked were energy levels, quality of sleep, self-confidence.
Yeah.
Physical strength, not physical appearance.
Correct.
Cardio endurance, flexibility, mobility, and then overall physical health, and then just motivation levels.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good thing for me to do. I guess I never told you this then, so I'll tell you now.
Oh.
I think that was a good thing for me to do ahead of time too, because sometimes we don't start a new exercise routine or stretches or whatever with our goal in mind.
Right.
We just know, oh, it's healthy and I don't feel healthy now, so let's just do what this person tells me to do. But that made me go, well, yeah, like what am I trying to get out of this? Like what do I want the expertise on?
Yeah.
And I hadn't really thought about it other than, oh, I know Dani will help me. and you would have. You. And you would have. But like, I was like, it put a little bit back on me to take the ownership.
Yeah.
And what am I trying to do that maybe doesn't have a number attached to it or whatever?
Yeah. So not to make this all about me. This is the last thing I'll say about it.
Not an ad. Oh, no, well, it's kind of an ad.
Although
we'll link to her stuff in the notes.
Anyways, I my goal in training, and I will say there are plenty of other trainers out there who feel this exact same way. It's not a mainstream culture, but I hope one day it is. But there are so many that feel this exact way. My goal is if I'm working with you in a training session, I want you to eventually not need me. My goal is to empower you and encourage you to have that. You know, I want to give you the knowledge I have so you can use it for yourself. But we have to do that in a way that honors your body. So I do something different with all my clients because everybody's different.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on from that, we've been going on a long time. This has been a heavy episode. But I do think books are a great starting resource. So I'm going to really quick go through some books that I'm a big bookworm, and we're actually going to have an upcoming episode where we talk about Xennial books.
Yes, we are. None that have to do with diet or fitness, but
no. We actually will have another episode on body image. When this one comes out, you'll see the other one as well. So Katie's going to talk about media stuff. So that's a whole other thing. But anyway, so like I said, I already talked about Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison. Like I said, that was my first intro into kind of unraveling diet culture. I brought the books with me.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I guess I'll have to get a picture
I was like,
of
Katie
you.
may want to borrow
once
these.
They're all on your.
Know.
Yeah, I was thinking that one maybe I'll borrow. But yeah.
Another one that I read pretty soon after that was Health at Every Size. The Surprising Truth About Your Weight by a doctor named Linda Bacon. Now, I will say she has had some controversial stuff come up in recent years, but I do think the information in this book is very, very valuable and important to read through. Another one that I just recently read is by Chrissy King, and it is called The Body Liberation Project, How Understanding Racism and Diet Culture Helps Cultivate Joy and Build Collective Freedom. So a piece of it that we didn't talk about was toxic fitness culture and diet culture also have racist foundations because it's all this Eurocentric, thin white ideal body that we're supposed to have. So it harms people who are, people of color the most. So, and in marginalized communities as well. So her book was great. This is a great learning resource for really unraveling that as well. She's also just I like the way she writes too. And it's a great read. Another female author, this book I love. She even has a workbook now that comes with this book, and the cover, look how beautiful that is.
Oh, I love it.
Right? Y'all have to look it up online. Sonia Renee Taylor is the author. The name of the book is The Body Is Not an Apology, The Power of Radical Self-Love. She is a Black woman in a larger body, and she is on this cover looking gorgeous, and it is just beautiful artwork. Anyway, this one is not a long read, but it's going to sit with you because she has questions for you to go over in the end.
Ooh.
Okay. Like I said, she also has a workbook that goes along with it that I recommend getting. I had it, but I don't know where it is, so I couldn't bring it. The next one is more on body image and kind of generational stuff, but I think it goes along with all this stuff. The name of it is Mothers, Daughters, and Body Image. Learning to Love Ourselves as We Are by Hillary McBride. This one and the one I just mentioned have to do with how you see yourself and like how you're kind of taught things. This one, the Mothers and Daughters one, has actual interviews with mothers and daughters.
Oh, wow. Where
they talk about the things you pass on with body image. This might be a really good one for you, actually, with all the daughters you have. Anyways,
read that one.
And the last one is more of I recommend it to everyone, but if you are a fitness professional of any kind or in the health industry of any kind, I really recommend. I'm not done reading it yet. I'm about halfway through. It's a new book. It's called Deconstructing the Fitness Industrial Complex, How to Resist, Disrupt, and Reclaim What It Means to Be Fit in American Culture. And it has every chapter is a different author after like the intro and forward and stuff. And it's really good. If you're a fitness professional, please get it. Anyway, we'll have the links to all those on our show notes. So that brings us to the end. Finally, if you're still here, thanks.
Hi.
Sorry. It was a lot.
No, don't be sorry.
And
it's possible you had to listen to it 3 or 4 separate times
for
time, or just to collect yourself or kind of sit with it. And I'd be especially interested to hear if anyone listened to this and maybe came into it with one mindset and is now leaving with a different one or something else to think about. Or if you disagree or want to, we'd love to, hear that too on social media, or we have our email address in our show notes as well.
Yes.
This is definitely a conversation.
Oh, for sure.
And so, we're here for that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's definitely not just here's all the information and we're done with it. Like Happy Meal toys.
That one, done, gone. Just kidding.
I know everybody's probably like, God, why don't they just do another trivia episode? It's too much. Don't worry, it's coming. We have to alternate light and heavy.
Yes.
But anyway, that's it. Thank you for joining us today on Generation in Between, a Xennial Podcast. If you like what you hear in our episodes, maybe not this one, I don't know. Share with us. Share us with your friends of all generations. Leave us a review wherever you listen. You can also find us on patreon.com and become a monthly supporter if you are so inclined. So until next time, listen to your bodies, fight toxic BS, and take care of yourselves, listeners. Bye.
Yes. Bye, everybody.